Growing up in a Mexican household, everything about it was beautiful. I grew up speaking both Spanish and English, so best believe I used myself being bilingual in a beneficial way. A story I will always remember is this one time I was working. I currently work at the hospital as a patient safety attendant, someone who notifies professional staff of the patient's needs and alerts them in case of an emergency. Just by me saying that, you can definitely say I deal with new patients every day. Some days I may get a patient who sleeps all day. Love those kinds of people. An old person who has dementia, so my word of the day is always stay in bed, Patty. Or on a bad day when I get a patient who does simply not want me there and wants to go home. It's definitely a job. The nurse then arrived, and from there, I already knew why I was here. It was a Tuesday afternoon and I had work at 3. I arrived at the hospital, clocked in, got my case, and sat in my patient's room for 8 hours. Very eventful, you can say. Besides that, I arrived at my patient's room 3168 and introduced myself. Hi, I'm Carolina. I'm your sitter for today. The lady then introduced herself and started explaining why she was there. See, normally I deal with an SI patient and their safety, but this time I had to sit for someone only because she needed a translator. Very rare since that was unusual, but hey, this is my job and translating for the next 8 hours is no big deal. So it's an easy day for me. See, working at a hospital, I can definitely say not all nurses are nice. Sadly, it's not like Grey's Anatomy where it's all fun and interesting. No, some of these nurses really don't deserve to be nurses, but hey, what can we do? When the nurse came in, she was known to be those nurses who hated having to do their job. She was nice, don't get me wrong, but she hated having to do extra steps, and in this situation was finding a translator. So that's exactly why I'm here. You speak Spanish? The nurse said. Yeah, I do, I replied. You have a gift, the nurse then said. Oh, thank you. See, I was nervous, so my reply was so dry, but when she said that, it really made me feel good about myself. Not only was I here to do my job, I was also here to help a patient with translating. See, you might not see that as a big deal, but for me, that is. As a kid growing up being bilingual, my mom always encouraged me to speak both languages. So for someone noticing that really made me feel good about what I do. Throughout the whole day, everything went well. No complications, no issues, everything was perfect. My shift was about to end and the patient then stopped me before leaving. Thank you so much for today, mija. See, I never get compliments about doing my job, so when she said that, I was in shock. I was shocked I was noticed for not just doing my job, but for simply helping out. The next day I arrived at work, I was pulled into my manager's office, and she told me about how great of a job I did the day before. She offered to put me as a translator sitter, and I was just in shock. So you might not find that serious, but as someone who grew up with parents who only spoke Spanish, this was serious for me. I'm always translating for my parents, so to be able to translate for people here in the hospital was a big deal for me. I quickly called my mom and told her the news. Ever since that day, I realized how proud I am to be bilingual. Whenever I see the opportunity to translate, I'm there. Whenever a nurse needs me, I'm there. If they're offering a sitter to sit and translate, I'm there. The least a human being can do is help, and that's something I'll always do. Because of this, language is my literacy. I use myself being bilingual to help people out if needed, not only to help them, but to also show what I can do. One thing I could definitely say is, if you ever see someone struggling, does not mean you have to translate. Help out, because at the end of the day, you're making someone's day for even just doing the smallest thing.